This video exists thanks to a commenter. Leave a comment and I might just make a video on your idea. So if you play D&D for long enough, eventually you're going to have some drama at the table. Maybe there's an argument about an interpretation of the rules, and this argument is important because it affects the fate of a player character. Or maybe one person feels like they're not being treated as well as everyone else at the table. Maybe everyone else gets rewarded when they try to do cool and interesting things, and they feel like they're always being punished. Or maybe there's someone acting inappropriately at the table, and that needs to be handled with before it gets out of hand. Now, it's important to know the right way of handling this. No one wants a friendship to get ruined over a pen and paper game. People in this community can be very passionate about their opinions, and sometimes people will express this in the wrong ways. Most of my videos are intended for DMs only, but this video has been written for anyone at the table to be able to get something out of it. Also, the first couple things I say to you might sound basic to some, but I think it's important to say them because to some others, this might be the first time hearing these things, so it's important that we cover it first so everyone's working on the same base information. So starting off, the most important thing should always be safety. There's plenty of horror stories that you can find online of people getting physically hurt because of conflict at the table, and that's not something anyone wants to see happen. If you're playing in a game and you realize that someone at that table feels unstable, inform someone. Ideally, inform someone else who's close enough to them who can help get the help that they need, like a partner, or if you're younger, a parent or a teacher, or, just a close friend. If you believe that there is an immediate danger to anybody, always call the police. I know a lot of men, and I'm saying this because I consider myself part of this group, who tend to think that if there's a dangerous situation or a situation where someone needs help, that they'll be the badass who comes in and steps up and fights the other guy, but there's no reason to get yourself in that situation. And I don't care if you are stronger than the other person. I don't care if you know that you can beat the other person in a fight. You're just putting physical and legal risk to yourself, and it's better to get someone else involved. At the end of the day, it's not worth the risk. Play it smart, play it safe. Now, this isn't a video about safety. If you need more information on that, there are many places you can go online where you can find people who know much more than I do on that topic. So going into player drama, there's a couple of factors you have to consider when handling this type of conflict. Firstly, are they your friends that you're having this conflict with, or are they strangers? In my opinion, friendship is always more important than a game, even if it's something you're incredibly passionate about. I've had friends where I love them to death, but I won't play D&D with them anymore because what I want from D&D and what they want from D&D is so antithetical to each other that I know that if we were to be in a group together, one of us aren't going to have fun, and probably neither of us are going to have fun because we know the other person isn't having fun and that's going to bother us. Now, we get along talking about video games and movies and literally everything else. They're a great person, but D&D is the one thing we should not have a conversation about. Now, if you're playing with strangers, you can always find new strangers to play with. There are literally so many strangers who are looking for new strangers to play D&D with. You can find them in person at your colleges or your local game shop. You can find them online on literally any resource that I'm going to have floating around me. So there's no point in trying to hold on to a game with people that you don't even know. At the end of the day, no one likes drama. No one wants to be a part of drama. Many people love hearing about drama, but having to deal with it yourself is miserable, best to be avoided. There's no point in having beef with people you don't even know. Now, if these are people who matter to you, and this is something that you actually want to try to resolve, the best way to resolve conflict is to be prepared for it before it happens. It's always better to be over-prepared and not have to use it than have to react and be under-prepared and then you make a mistake. I feel like everyone's been in a situation where they've had to make a quick choice and react to the situation happening in front of them, and after that situation happened, they looked back and was like, man, I really wish I'd made a different choice in that situation. I feel like I really fumbled the ball, and it's usually because we haven't prepared for that situation to happen. So what can you do? Well, before your game, ideally in session 0, have a conversation with your players about what might happen if there's any kind of conflict. Should the responsibility of handling it be left up to the DM? Should it be a vote from everyone in the group? How many times should someone be able to do something that causes strife before there is a temporary punishment or even a permanent one? At what point do you remove someone from a group because of their actions and behavior? Knowing these things and having everyone agree to it make those possible issues easier to deal with in the future, as you now have a procedure that you can fall back on and no one can really complain about it because everyone agreed that this is how the procedure works. Hopefully you never find yourself having to fall back on this, but it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Now, I know what I just said could come off as cold and very contracty and very much, why am I playing a game with people I feel like I need to write a contract with? And I get that, but you can also just have it be a part of the conversation of your session 0. Just say, hey, what do you think we should do if we have a conflict later on? And have a conversation about it. But if you feel more comfortable having something down in writing, have something down in writing. It's what works for you. I'm not the boss of you. You do what you want. Now, if there is some type of argument or drama or something along those lines, I always try to center myself on my surroundings and focus on what might be influencing me to feel a certain way or what might be influencing them to feel a certain way. Has something happened to me in my past that triggers a certain reaction out of me and how I respond to it that might not be fair to the person who I'm responding to? So maybe, for example, I had a party that I was in where everyone would steal from each other, and at first everything was fine, but then eventually it got to the point where we felt like we were competing with each other, and it kind of ruined that game and just was a total disaster by the end of it. Then I enter a new game and I see someone steal from another party member or maybe even myself. While stealing from the party might not be totally terrible if you have a fair and honest conversation about it, I might not be able to have a fair and honest conversation because I remember that thing where everything went bad, and that's building up emotions in me, which causes me to either become self-aware and relax, or step away, become self-aware, relax, and then try to come back and have that fair and honest conversation that this situation deserves to have. Remaining calm and empathetic and emotionally aware in these situations is one of the best things I think you can do. It's so easy to take things personally or allow someone else's frustration to add to your frustration. But if you do that and let these things build, you're just gonna end up in a mean, uncomfortable situation where everyone looks like a bad guy. People tend to think, oh, well, if someone's mean to me, does something bad to me, I'm allowed to be equally bad right back at them. Well, sure, that might be true in theory, in some circumstances. Just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean you should do something. If you sink to another person's level, you're gonna be perceived at the same level as them. If someone starts sinking and you stay at your level, it will be shown to everyone around you that, hey, this person refused to go down, refused to get aggressive. They remained calm. They remained honest and fair. That will be remembered. Of course, you shouldn't just be a good person because other people are watching, but if you fight dirty because the other person is fighting dirty, well, it's just gonna look like two people fighting in the mud. So you've prepared and you have a problem at your table. Maybe a player isn't following the rules. Maybe they're fudging their dice rolls, or they're intentionally forgetting to remove things from their inventory. Maybe there's a behavioral problem. Maybe there's someone who's never showed up on time for a game before, or maybe someone's being inappropriate at the table. Each of these problems have a different level of urgency. Urgency is exactly what it sounds like. It's how much a problem needs to be dealt with immediately. Someone who's not role-playing at the table, well, you might not have to deal with that at all. If you just give it a couple days, the person might become more comfortable and allow it to happen. And anyways, it's not that huge of a deal, but it could be something you bring up eventually. But it doesn't need to be brought up the first time they have a session and they don't roleplay. Now, someone who's yelling insults at another player, well, you're probably going to want to deal with that then and there. Now, the problem with judging urgency is that humans are emotional creatures, and we can often let those emotions affect our ability to understand how important a situation might be. For example, if someone shows up late for the 5th game in the row and they've just walked in the door, well, you might be very angry that they're never showing up on time. However, if you immediately berate them for showing up late, well, what does that do? Does that make them get any earlier for the session that they're currently late in? No. All that's going to do is make them feel unwelcome, make them feel like crap for being late, and make the rest of the session feel a little awkward. We're in luck because D&D has the benefit of having long gaps in between. Even if you're playing week by week, you have 7 days in between a game to emotionally think about what happened and what bothered you, why it might bother you, and if it really should bother you as much as it does. For most problems, you're better off waiting a day or so and speak to the person about it while it's not happening. While it's going on, you're a lot more likely to be emotionally charged rather than logically thinking it through. If you wait to text them or talk to them in person, when you're not feeling those emotions, you're a lot more likely to have a constructive conversation where everyone gets what they want. But how do you actually have a conversation about the problems you're having at your table? As the commenter who inspired this video had mentioned, there's a pretty good chance that you can bring something up and someone will say, well, hey, what's the big deal? It's just a game, don't take it that seriously. And in many ways they're right. This is a silly, stupid game where I play a little hero guy and I get to play with all my friends who are also little hero guys, and we go into caves and fight monsters and save the world together. But this is where you respond. It is just a game. But it's a game where I want to have fun, and when this happens to my character, I have less fun. I try to avoid language like when you do this or anything that targets them as the problem rather than an action that is happening. If they steal from you, it's better to say, I don't like it when my character gets their stuff stolen, rather than saying, I don't like it when you steal my stuff. People don't like being the bad guy or the problem player. By attacking them for what they're doing, they're just going to get defensive. It's human nature. But if you target the thing that they happen to be doing, it's much easier for people to listen to what you have to say and actually change their behavior from what you don't like. And the final thing we have to acknowledge, if not the most important thing we have to acknowledge, is when to realize that you might be in the wrong group. It happens. Sometimes you want something out of D&D, and the people around you want something else out of it. Sometimes we find ways to make this work, and other times it's just not gonna mix. It's very easy for people to hold on to a group that's not good for them, especially if they think that this is the only group that they'll be able to play D&D with, and if they let go, they can't play D&D anymore. But I want to emphasize, that only hurts you more. Staying in a group that isn't a good match for you just prevents you from going out and finding better groups that are a better fit. There are so many online and in-person groups that you can find. The right groups are out there for you, and staying in the wrong groups is just preventing you from finding them. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it and you want to see more like it, click that subscribe button to stay updated on future releases. This video exists thanks to a comment from KJCat, and if you want to see me make a video on a particular topic, well, leave a comment and I just might happen to make a video about it. Thank you again, and this is the end of the video. I like that my girlfriend put up a whole bunch of posters on her side of the room, but because I record onto her side of the room, it looks like this is the stuff that I put up for my wall. I mean, it looks good. I just find that funny.